Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we really get into your sources, looking for, well, surprising facts and clarity. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some really big questions, ones that touch pretty much everyone. What exactly is truth? Where does religion fit in? What about God or the existence of other kinds of beings? Our mission here, like always, is to explore the sources you provide, but without any dogma attached. We're just independent researchers looking freely at human history, across the globe and maybe even beyond it.
Yeah, and look, a lot of you have actually asked us directly about our view on religion, God, these beings, especially because we often discuss findings related to, let's call it, extraterrestrial intervention. That's the idea that maybe intelligent beings from outside Earth have played a role in human history. And we touched on other topics that can seem controversial. So let's be really clear, front. We don't follow any specific religion or dogma. We're definitely not anti-Bible or saying we don't believe in God. Not at all. Our only aim is to seek truth. That's it.
Exactly. Our whole approach is about investigation. It's research, looking at history, searching for evidence globally, and sometimes thinking outside the usual boxes. And that means we have to question assumptions. Take the concept of heaven, for instance. You often hear religious leaders say celestial beings, angels, came from heaven, and it's usually pictured as, above the clouds. But if you apply a scientific perspective, you start to see how our understanding of this heavenly world, this divine world, might be more metaphorical, maybe based on how early humans perceive things. We're trying to bring some scientific clarity, not just call old beliefs lies.
That's a really interesting thought, heaven being misunderstood. But I can see how for some people that might feel like it's challenging their core beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you square that scientific lens with, spiritual understanding? And what does it actually mean if heaven isn't literally up there? Are we thinking physical place? Or maybe something else, like another dimension?
Well, the key is applying that scientific lens rigorously to all beliefs, no exceptions. Think about how science changed our view of the cosmos, right? We went from thinking the Earth was the center to understanding stars, the sun, planets in a much more accurate way. We believe there's likely distortion, maybe even manipulation, within religions themselves too. And look, this isn't about attacking any specific religion, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, any of them. It's about trying to find the truth behind them all. Is there something common underneath?
Right, building on that, let's look at sacred texts. Take the Bible. It's often held up as the literal word of God. But our research suggests, well, God didn't physically write it down, neither did Jesus. It seems to have been men who wrote these accounts based on what they heard or what they were told.
Exactly. And that human element is really important when you look at how and when these texts were put together formally. What's quite compelling, we found, is that the Bible, as we generally know it, it was formally compiled much later than the events, maybe almost 500 years after Christ. And this compilation, it was initiated by the Roman Catholic Apostolic Church, which, and this is interesting, was originally the very group persecuting the movement associated with Jesus, or Yeshua. So it does make you think, should we just blindly follow a book written by men, especially given that history?
That really does shift how you might look at these sacred texts, but it goes even deeper, doesn't it? Because our research also brought up hundreds of other texts. They're often called apocryphal gospels. These are ancient Christian writings that didn't make it into the official Bible. Things like the Gospel of Mary Magdalene or Peter or Thomas. They were, it seems, deliberately left out, hidden from humanity, effectively. Why? Why leave out crucial accounts if the aim was a complete, truthful record?
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it does suggest a kind of system, maybe a matrix if you like. Think of how governments, religions, even educational systems can sometimes filter information, making sure certain knowledge doesn't really get out there. You see how history can be written to support one view, leaving out other perspectives, right? This is about helping you see those filters. We genuinely encourage you to seek out these other texts, read them, see what they say. It's about actively discerning information, not just passively receiving it.
Yeah, this idea of managed knowledge or curated history, it's powerful. Because if our understanding of history, of religion, has been shaped like that, it makes you ask some really fundamental questions about God and angels, too. If we aren't seeing them walking around on Earth like in some old stories, then where are they? Are they just concepts? Or is there something more tangible?
So that's the next logical question, isn't it? Where are they? Our findings seem to point towards these beings being outside Earth, maybe what some would call extraterrestrials. Now, we think God likely exists as a fundamental energy, a consciousness, the ultimate creator source. And angels, perhaps they're more like physical messengers from these other places, maybe other dimensions. Think of a reality alongside ours, but usually imperceptible. Beings capable of materializing, dematerializing, appearing, disappearing. We really need a scientific framework for this reality, not just a purely dogmatic one.
Okay, shifting gears slightly to ancient times. When we investigate ancient records, look at archaeology, use scientific findings, we consistently find pointers towards some kind of intervention on Earth by intelligent beings. The evidence seems too widespread across different cultures just to dismiss.
Yeah, and what really jumps out when we look closely is that some of these beings seem to have actually presented themselves as gods or even as the supreme god. And many people, even today, might still be praying or doing rituals directed toward them, mistaking them for the ultimate creator. If you zoom out, look at the big picture. Almost all ancient cultures, especially when you dig deeper than standard history, particularly in Eastern religions, though maybe less so in Buddhism and Taoism, they all presented this idea of a pantheon of divinities. Lots of gods.
And these weren't just random gods, were they? The sources suggest they often had hierarchies, they worked together, each had specific roles, they brought knowledge. So what's the takeaway here? A really striking thing was they often demanded worship, rituals. Humanity was put in a sort of subservient position. You see echoes of this in the Hindu trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Similar structures in Egypt, Greece, China, Nordic myths. It all strongly suggests an intervention by beings who weren't originally from Earth. They came from somewhere else.
And yet, inside all these different mythologies, there's often another common element, the appearance of what's called an avatar, or an envoy. This is usually a figure sent directly by a supreme god, intervening in history, making a huge impact. Think of figures like Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Moses, Muhammad, Jesus Christ. What's really interesting is while their cultures often had many gods, these specific figures consistently pointing towards a single god, a supreme consciousness, a creator. They were almost like catalysts pushing towards monotheism, challenging the worship of multiple deities. And then you see Western religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, really formalizing that monotheistic idea later on.
Okay, so we've explored this idea of intervention, how different cultures saw gods. Let's pivot now to how people seek God today, because you see different approaches, right? Some beliefs really emphasize an external God, a being outside us. Others point inward, saying the divine is within.
Right, and digging into that, the sheer variety of human spiritual paths is fascinating.
Yeah.
You have some people who find genuine happiness, real fulfillment in outward devotion, adoration, emotional connection to God, maybe living monastic lives focused on prayer. Then you have others who believe God isn't external at all, but completely internal. An inner connection you have to cultivate yourself. Take India, for example. The philosophy of yoga, the word itself, means reunion, just like the Latin root of religion, religare. It teaches very specific ways to reconnect, not through worshiping something outside, but by working with your own body, mind, emotions, even using life force and sexuality, like in Tantra, to connect with supreme energies and consciousness.
So the bigger picture is people are actively using all sorts of techniques, meditation, contemplation, trying to align their mind, emotions, body, all to reconnect with what they might call their higher self or that inner spark of the divine.
Which leads us to this point. All over the world, people are searching. They're looking for answers, trying to reconnect with God or some supreme energy. Whether the goal is returning to a real world, a spiritual world, a cosmic world, the search is there. And look, we're absolutely not here to judge anyone's beliefs or condemn them. Our approach is to analyze religions, respect them all, but also look for the common threads using scientific research, trying to build a bigger, more comprehensive understanding.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, our aim really has been to offer you a broader perspective, definitely not to tell you what to believe. One way we think about it is seeing God as maybe like pure white light, a single fundamental frequency. But that light, when it passes through the prism of human experience and perception, can manifest as this incredible diversity of forms, like the colors of a rainbow. It suggests the ultimate source might be one, but our experience of it allows for this beautiful, wide spectrum of connection.
Exactly. And that means we need discernment. We need clarity. We need to try and avoid getting caught up in these sort of information war where everyone's just arguing about who's right and who's wrong. The focus should be on clear understanding, which brings up a crucial question for you, the listener. Are you willing to really question, to do the research, to actually go into the field, so to speak, to physically seek out information, not just debate things online, just like, people had to actually go out and make observations to understand the shape of the earth rather than just philosophizing about it. We really encourage you to step outside your comfort zone sometimes and pursue knowledge directly. And honestly, we respect and admire people who question, who criticize constructively. That's absolutely essential for growth, for pushing research forward. So keep seeking. Keep asking questions and keep exploring the truth for yourself.